Welcome back to the Out of the Rough podcast presented by We Know Fantasy. As always, my name is Nate with We Know Fantasy. And boys, we have a special podcast today. First up, though, we have my co-host Jake. Jake, I know the answer to this, but how are we doing today?
Yeah, it's a better, well, now it's Tuesday, but a better Tuesday than most, coming off of a double winner for me. Nailed the DP World Tour and the Truist. So I had 24 exciting hours of golf between Kuvra and Sepstraka. But yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit before we hopped on the pod, but to the Truist's credit, I thought Philly Cricket was a fun event. It had potential to not be so fun, but again, it showed a little bit of teeth. It was a good event, a good leaderboard, and obviously for me, a good result, but a stacked leaderboard on Sunday.
Yeah, it wasn't too great for me. I mean, I had Shane Lowry there on the betting card and had the event won and gave it away and couldn't figure out how to hit a putt down in the back nine to save his life. Had so many chances to not only put that to bed or catch or match Straka and just kind of doing three putts on the final hole to get a T2 opposed to a solo second. And then Myrtle, another decent event, didn't obviously pay us attention down there with the Truist and the DP going on. But I had a four-man card, all four within four of the lead, all four top 13, three top 10, or three top sevens, two top fives, and didn't cash. But, that goes to show that the models are turning right. I had the runner-up at Truist, had four of the top 13 there, and DP wasn't all that bad. Didn't really test anything there, but besides the point. But yeah, going back to Truist, fantastic event. Really excited about that. Being a Pennsylvania native, proudful Pennsylvania native, and of course that many people thought they'd just come and be low 20s at, showed some teeth, made a great event out of it, and hopefully this goes to show that the Northeast can host some more golf events moving forward. Not only for my own guilt to attend more golf events, but yeah, it was a great event nonetheless. But also joining us this week is one of our most frequent and returning guests, Keith Fleming. Keith, how are we doing today?
What's going on, guys?
It's always great to have Keith back here. He's going to join us here for PGA Championship talk, and then from here we're going to hop over to his show. So be sure to check that out, Keith. What you been up to, and where can we find your show?
You can find all my work on fantasy6pack.net. Do now where there's both a DFS and betting cheat sheet. The betting cheat sheet with Straka last week has included the winner 5 out of last 9. So on an insane heater right now. I can't promise that's going to continue. So better play those picks while they're good. Then we record every Tuesday night on Fantasy Six Pack's YouTube channel. It's normally me and Ryan Mulvey. We've been having a lot more guests this year, which has been fun. Excited to have you guys on tonight. Particularly now that Ryan's not going to be able to make it because nobody wants to hear me talk for an hour straight. So you guys are doing the Lord's work. But other than that, shockingly happy with the way my Atlanta Falcons drafted, which that hasn't happened. God, I couldn't tell you. And
Great
how
draft by
long,
them.
and the Braves are not horrible anymore after that, terrible start. Still not very good, but they're at least trending in the right direction. So overall, things are good.
Yeah, I know you're an Atlanta guy. I see a Hawks hat on there. I'm a Hawks fan myself, and
Oh wow.
was
Sorry,
hoping
man. I
for
didn't know that.
some kind of magic there at the lotto for 2 straight years.
Well, they were gonna rig it for Dallas. Good
Yeah,
Lord.
that was something. I won't get into that. I won't get into
Yeah,
that.
no
But
kidding. I'd rant for 45 minutes. That's probably a better idea.
yes, yes, yes. But again, it's great to have Keith on here. A great insight, very knowledgeable, and just a great guy to have on the podcast. But before we do move forward, guys, and talk some PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, Jake, where can people find you on social media?
Yep, you can find me at DJ Freeman on Twitter. I post all my outright betting cards there. If you're looking for some extra content, be sure to join our Discord completely free. Once you're in there, there's no hidden paywalls. You have access to unlimited content from everyone, really. You get everyone posts their wagers in there. I post exclusive matchup plays in there. Nate posts first round leader. The possibilities are endless in the Discord. Once you're in there, again, completely free to join and completely free access to everything in there. So be sure to hit one of us up to get the link to join that.
Yeah, we just had a member of our podcast go 3 for 3 last week. Not a podcast,
Wow.
Discord. Titanic, shout out to him. He hit the both PJ events and DP. Fantastic stuff there. And again, not only Jake and I stuff in that Discord, we have people from all walks of life, professional bettors, amateurs, everything in between. We have NASCAR, tennis, soccer, everything. Possibilities are endless in there, as Jake just said. If you want us to start a cricket channel, a football channel, whatever you want us to put in there, we're here for the people. It's a community, a pretty much, I hate to say the term safe space, but it really is. There's no drama, none of that happening in there. So be sure to check that out. Keith, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at Keith Fleming. That's KeithFlemming on Twitter/X. And then if you just add DFS to the end of my name, that is both my Blue Sky and TikTok handles.
There we go. There we go. And as always, geez, you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKFNate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Be sure to visit WeKnowFantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content. Visit baseball, basketball, football, NASCAR, golf, everything in between. We have you covered on there each and every week. My Out of the Rough golf betting article series, where I really go in depth each week of the DP World Tour, PGA Tour, and LPGA majors. My PGA Tour DFS breakdowns, full breakdowns, and explanations are on there as well. Full course breakdowns of every event. And of course, we also have Andrews at All Tour Bets on Twitter. He does the feeder tours, the Corn Ferry, the Challenge Tour. Fantastic stuff. The most knowledgeable person on those tours you will find on the internet. The stats and the information on these courses he finds and puts out there is unmatched. I'm not sure where he actually gets this information because I can't find it myself, but he seems to have it. So be sure to check that out. And of course, Craig Thompson, take a little break because he's has some big plans for his personal side of things. I won't go into details about that, but that'll be out here in a month or so. Taking a little bit of a break, but his LPGA stuff, like Andrew's feeder tour stuff, is unmatched as well, hitting winners left and right there. So be sure to check all of that out. Beyond that, I think that's it. So yeah, let's talk about some PGA Championship, second major of the season, guys. We're here. The golf schedule, really, we talk about this all the time, but the heart of the schedule is here. Next month, US Open. 2 months will be over at the Open. It's really coming down to it now, guys. And of course, Ryder Cup year, so a lot to play for a lot of guys. This is really a chance for some of those live guys that are kind of on the border of a potential Ryder Cup spot to really make a name for themselves. I think we all assume like the likes of Bryson DeChambeau and possibly Brooks Koepka are kind of locks. I'm not sure about Brooks with his way of play. But there are some names circulating that we'd like to see. I mean, I'm personally on the Patrick Reed bandwagon to get him at Bethpage Black. I think he adds an element that Team USA could really use, and plus he is a pretty darn good golfer, just kind of not a good guy. But either way, we need a bit of a villain on our US side to help us, retain the title. Either way, guys, PGA Championship, and we talk about this all the time. There are some golf courses that even the novice follower of the PGA Tour knows, the Augusta Nationals, Pebble Beaches, Oakmonts, Pinehurst, Bethpage, all of those. And one of those is Quail Hollow. That's where we are this week. Of course, we see Quail Hollow each and every season with the Wells Fargo Championship, now the Truist Championship, although last week was relocated because of them hosting the PGA Championship this week. It also hosted the President's Cup in 2022, did not have an event there, but either way, field this week, of course, we know what this field presents. It is the best of the world in the world of golf. We have the PGA Tour, top tier PGA Tour guys, the top live guys, all of them coming together to claim the Wanamaker Trophy. Xander Schauffele, of course, used this event last season at Valhalla to claim his first major, as he went on to win the Open as well in the same season. Back this year to defend that title, of course, Scotty Scheffler, world number one, looking to claim his third major in his first non-Masters major. We'll see if he gets over that hump and gets another major to his name. And of course, we're here at Quail Hollow. We can nickname Quail Hollow the Rory McIlroy Country Club, as Jordan Spieth deemed it here recently when, there was a story that came out about Jordan coming up to Rory and congratulate him on the career Grand Slam. And Rory said, hey, it's your turn next week. And of course, Jordan then rebutted, of course, at Rory McIlroy Country Club. But yeah, Rory McIlroy has dominated this golf course. He's won the Truist 2 of the last 3 seasons. Was hosted there. He plays this golf course better than anyone on the PGA Tour. And he won his first of 29 PGA Tour victories here back in, what was it, 2000? I don't know what the thing. But anyways, first PGA Tour victory, he was here at Quail Hollow as well. Justin Thomas claimed his maiden major victory here in 2017, the last time this course hosted a major PGA Championship there. Topped the likes of Francisco Molinari and Luis Oosthuizen to claim that title. Other notable golfers teamed up, of course, Colin Morikawa, Ludwig Ahlberg, Hideki Matsuyama, Russell Henley, Victor Hovland, and Maverick McNeely. And a total of 16 members of LIV will be in attendance this week, including former PGA champions Brooks Koepka, Phil Mickelson, and Martin Kamer. Beyond that, John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, Terrell Hatton, Joakim Niemann, Sergio Garcia, and Cameron Smith round out the highlights of the LIV Golf contingent. One of excuse me, the uniqueness about the PGA Championship is the inclusion of PGA professionals, a club, or I guess, right, yeah, uh, club professionals across the United States. They get a chance for an invite, play their way into this. And one of those, we saw back in 2023 at Oak Hill was Michael Block, who went on to make the cut and make some noise across the weekend. And he's back this week as one of those spots. And as a fan favorite, catching some steam. I think he's 500 to 1. Probably a fair bit of money will be on him this week, wasting your money there. But, a little bit of fun along the way. Some other former PGA champions teamed up this week. We have, of course, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Jimmy Walker, Jason Day, McIlroy, Jason Duffner, Keegan Bradley, Patrick Harrington, Vijay Singh, and Shawn Michael. So the course this week, it is the Quail Hollow. Of course, talked about that about 25 times as well. George Cobb Design opened in 1959, has seen a rich history over its 65 years. It has seen renovations from Tom Fazio in 97, 2003, and 2016 to adapt to the increased length of tour professionals and continue to be a quintessential fit for majors. This track first hosted the PGA Tour's Kemper Open in 1969 through 1979, prior to the event switching to the Congressional. From there, Quail Hollow has hosted the World Seniors Invitational before becoming the most stable host, the Wells Fargo Championship in 2003. Quail Hollows most recently hosted the President's Cup in 2022, which saw the United States reign supreme over the international squad. It last hosted a major in 2017, of course, with Justin Thomas winning it. Like most major quality courses, this week's track rewards the longest players off the tee. It requires a very well-rounded game from tee to green. Quail Hollow is not necessarily a bomber's paradise, though, but it is an advantage, of course, as all of these majors are. We have seen in recent outings the fairway finders are able to compete, but the leaderboard is often littered with the longest drivers off the tee. So typically, we see this course set up for non-majors in the Truist Championship. Therefore, we'd see shorter rough and wider fairways. Won't be the case this week, as USGA guidelines. Is that the correct one? No, that's the U.S. Open. Either way,
PGA of America.
PGA of America. There we go. Narrower fairways, longer rough, all of it. You know what we get at this point. The PGA Championship's essentially becoming a U.S. Open at this point, anyhow. There's no way around that. All right, so golfer or long iron play will be crucial this week as a large number of approach shots will come from 175 plus. Golfers will be required to scramble for pars this week as a winning score in 2017 was -8. The greens this week are Bermuda and boy are they fast. Those competent with the flat stick of Bermuda greens will see a big advantage this week. Free putting can derail anyone's round, especially with, a low single digit or a high single digit low teens potential winner this week. With these fast greens and long approach shots, getting the ball to stick on these greens will be tricky. Therefore, those with competent around the green skill sets too will see an advantage this week. In these low scoring affairs, taking advantage of the par fives are a must as well. That is where the majority of the scoring is done. In all, it takes a lot to claim victory at Quail Hollow. Quick mention about the weather. The area is being, destroyed, not destroyed, but being hit with a bunch of storms, precipitation leading into the event. I think there's a decent chance for some rain Thursday, Friday, clears up on the weekend, but it's going to be wet at least Thursday with all this weather. I think the course was shut down today even, and shelter in place was put into place. So it's going to be interesting how this event first kicks off. We'll see how the course drains and all of that. But again, it is Quail Hollow. It is a pristine golf course. So I'm not, holding my breath. It's going to be a wet, soppy mess either way. All right, Jake, anything to add here before we move forward?
Yeah, I guess just one quick thing to add here. I think the rain is going to make the driving distance even more important because you're going to get far less rollout on your ball. We're going to see the absolute teeth of quail because what's going to happen is the fairways are going to stick to the ball. You're not going to get the rollout. Then you're going to hit your approach to the greens that are going to dry up super quick and your ball is going to go flying off. So these players are going to have to play in probably the hardest conditions for Quail Hollow. And then just another thing to note is this course is a little bit of a roller coaster, right? Holes 1 through 6, super difficult. Then you have 7 through 15 where you have to score. those are the holes that you need to take advantage of. You have the par fives and the par threes in that mix. And then you close out 16, 17, 18 with three of the four hardest holes on the course. So that's where you're going to have to show your teeth and get the job done this week. But yeah, those are just two quick tidbits to add.
Yeah, good point there with the weather. I mean, you're not going to see the rollout, and then possibly in the back of your mind, you think of the club up to get it to stick on the green, then you're going to roll off the back, all of that. So, a good note there. Keith, anything to add?
I mean, I agree with the driver distance, but I am curious with the rain. Is it going to make the rough a lot tougher? Because they have the sub air systems underneath the green, so they'll be able to suck most of the
Hmm.
moisture out of that. They're confident they'll be able to keep them firm and fast. It'll be easier to hit fairways, obviously, with it
Hmm.
being softer, but these are really tight fairways. And I think that there's no way that they can dry out the rough. And I even heard them say they may not cut.
Yep.
Uh, you know,
Might not be able to.
so I just think that's going to put more of an emphasis on hitting the fairway, and that's going to make it a lot harder. And I think that's going to allow actually more people to potentially stay in contention than if it played firm. I really do believe that. And the other thing that just to me really jumped out was if you look over the last 4 years of this event, the percentage of strokes gained between tee to green and putting for the winners has been 60% tee to green, 40% putting. Like for Augusta, the same 4 year span, it's 92% tee to green, 8% putting. It is so important to putt well here and to not three putt. So again, I see a lot of people really leaning in to long irons, which are very important, driving
Mhm.
distance, all that stuff, but don't forget they need to be able to scramble and they need to be able to putt because I do think this is going to be really difficult. This venue, since the remodel in 2018, has been in the top eight hardest on tour every single year. And the last time they had the PGA Championship here in August when it was firm and fast, it was number one. So I think it could end up playing extremely tough. Where I think some people are assuming it's actually going to play easier. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the harder it plays, it brings more people in to where if it's something where you can really get at it, right? And somebody can reach say 8 to 10 under par, that's where like your Rorys and stuff have a huge advantage because they can just hit another gear that most of the field can't.
Yeah, great points there. It's going to be so interesting. And you talked about that rough, even though it being long, and then you add a bit of moisture on there as well, adding that much more resistance when you're bringing your club through that thick grass. It's going to be darn near impossible to not only get your ball out of there, and in the event you do, there's a 0% chance you're sticking the green from the rough,
Right.
with all that added to it. So again, fairway finders, it would be so, interesting and in a sense of a fandom that much better to have more people in contention than just the realistically, what are we thinking of? You have the Scotty, Rory, Bryson, like that's basically it when it comes to these events, in terms of like they're going to be there no matter what, right? So when you can bring in some of these fairway finders who don't necessarily have the distance to compete at a PGA now that they're essentially US Opens, it's going to be very interesting. And I'm really excited about this. We'll see what the weather does do with all this. But yeah, let's see what our
I
betting
would
cord.
still leave Xander in that category too. I know
Yeah.
he's really
Oh,
been
yeah.
struggling, but I like what I saw at the Masters. I like what I saw last week. This dude has been so good in the majors now for going on 2 years. Obviously, won two last year. I think he still belongs in that list, even though I know his driving and his putting has been really, rough this week, but really good signs, especially last week where he was like top eight in the field in both putting and strokes gained off the tee.
Yeah, I've been a Xander truther for a very long time, and I believe when it comes to like pure, you know, solid, complete golfing, Xander's the best in the world. Like it's a complete package from top to bottom. Of course, we talk about Scotty Scheffler and his putting woes, and then you have Rory. Rory's is unique because it's either he has that gear or he doesn't. In any given week, and this year we've seen him have that gear more often than not. And then, of course, Bryson, his it's hard. He's going to kill the ball, but then his putting can be poor. His around the green work can be really poor.
Not here though. If we
But
look historically, good God, his
Yeah, he
putting. We'll get into that when we talk about him.
of course, All right, let's move into our betting cards here, guys. I know I have a five-man card, I believe. What do we all have here?
I'm going to talk
Tw
about five
yeah,
because I have a sixth future that is just embarrassing. I'll mention it, but I don't want to talk about it.
you never know. That's the great thing about futures. They're in the field, right? So they got a
True.
chance. I think I believe I had seven bets to win this week. Basically, two long shots and five, um, near the top. And really, it's just three low odds guys, two middle tier, and then two literally long shots.
All right, well, I guess I'll kick things off here, and I'm going with this is probably one of the more popular plays this week. I know, Jake, you have him on your card as well. I believe you have him as a future, and that's Justin Thomas. 22 to 1's where I have him this week. And, he won his first of two PGA Championships at Quail Hollow in 2017. He has that going for him. He's also very quietly having one of the best seasons on the PGA Tour to date, if you want to exclude Rory McIlroy. We saw him back in the win column a few weeks back at the RPC Heritage, a fairway finders, second shot course. It's not one of those super long courses, but one that makes up for difficulty in dog legs and tight fairways and all of that. So that's promising to see. Also, second at Valspar, ninth at Genesis, sixth at Phoenix, second at the American Express. Last year, eighth at Valhalla, which ended up being, a lot of people are saying a Mickey Mouse golf course. Either way, it was still a major. Uh, you know, he plays 21st here at Quail Hollow in 2014, 14th in 2023, 26th in 2021, and 21st in 2018. He's fifth on tour in tee to green and approach, 14th in three putt avoidance, which is a stat I really looked into this week. You cannot leave strokes on these greens, as Keith talked about already. He is also 26th around the green, 31st in bogey avoidance, 34th in par fives, 81st in approximate hole from 175 plus. The 107th in strokes gained putting Bermuda, not ideal, but about medium on the course or in the field. And if you're looking for strokes gained putting per grass type, we know fans.com, we have that data there for you, free of charge. Check that out as well. But yeah, Justin Thomas is kind of my favorite this week. Of course, I'm not going to back a Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy at those low odds, and I just don't have a lot of faith in Bryson, in my opinion. But that's where I'm starting my card, guys.
Yeah, I've got Justin Thomas at 28 to 1 on the future. I nailed it right before he won this year. But Nate, you covered it really well. I mean, strokes gained total, he's third on the PGA Tour this season. That's to me, overall encompassing third best player on tour this season. And you're getting him at over five times the odds of the likes of Scotty and Rory. It felt like the logical step to start my card because I just can't play those guys at 4 to 1 if I want a return on my card that I'm looking for. So I think this is a really good chance. Justin Thomas has been playing some awesome golf as of recent too. It feels like the win is coming again for JT in a major, and this guy loves PGA Championships, so why not add another one to the list here?
Yeah, this is when it comes to, like you said, we want to, when I'm doing what we do, we talk about this all the time, Jake. Those low odds are so hard unless you're single bulleting, which if you want to do, go for it. That's more power to you. We all are here to believe that Scotty Scheffler could and somewhat should win this golf event, right? Same with Rory McIlroy the season he's having. He very well could and should. At that point, if they win, we tip their hat and move on. It's so hard to get those guys at 4 to 1s, 5 to 1s in the card. And I want to present a question here. If Rory McIlroy were to win this event with what he's done already with the Masters, the Players, and Pebble Beach, Scotty won seven times last year, but I would take what Rory's doing this year over Scotty's season ago. We'll see what comes into it, but yeah, that's where we're at so far.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, Keith, who's your first play?
I do have JT on my betting
Okay,
card. I just
awesome.
think he's got the swagger back is really the big thing.
That's a big thing. The confidence, the Justin Thomas. I said this before on this podcast. The PJ Tour feels better when someone like Justin Thomas is in contention, right? He's like a guy that people just hate because of the way he carries himself and the way he plays golf. He's kind of that stuck up kind of country club. I mean, he really is type of guy that you just kind of want to has a punchable face, right? We talk about this all the time. And yeah, he's kind of like in a way of he's like a villain on the PGA Tour without being like an brash like what Bryson used to be, right? He has that sense to him, and I feel like the tour is better when someone like JT's in contention.
No, I agree. And again, this tournament means a lot with his dad, being a member of the PGA of America for years. So I think that has a lot to him. But I'm not afraid to go with Bryson. I'm not gonna lie, I'm also not afraid to go with Rory. I've had a really hot streak, and this is the one venue. Even if Rory had not won the Masters, I would probably be confident betting in him at no matter what the odds are. I mean, the stats are outrageous. For Rory, you can find that it's all over Golf Channel and everything. But I mean, he's just basically first in everything, like
Yeah.
everything at this course. There's strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, scoring average. He makes the least amount of bogeys on par fours, which are going to be so important this week. He destroys the par fives, which is going to be so important this week. So, but Bryson at 14-1, I do feel like is a value because of what Scheffler and Rory are at. And then also, Bryson is the one guy in this field that can not only match Rory with distance and accuracy off the tee. Bryson
Uh-huh.
has gotten to where he hits the driver very straight, but he can actually outdo him in those categories. He is one of the top 15 players in the field on approaches of 175 plus yards. 53% of approaches this week or traditionally at this course come from 175 plus yards. For Bryson, that's simple. He's hitting like 8 iron from 230. So, it
Insane
is a
stuff.
little bit easier when you're doing that. But he's also just owned the PGA Championship since 2020, at least as much as someone can without an actual victory. But best scoring average, best strokes gained total number since then at the PGA. And then to me, the thing that just I'm like, man, I can't ignore this. And granted, it's been a few years, but his last 8 rounds here, which that was after the remodel, he's gaining 1.6 strokes per round on the greens on the field and has made this is ridiculous. I have to look at this every time I go, is this right? It is 63% of his 10 to 15 footers. The rest of the field is averaging 23% of made putts from that range. If Bryson putts that well and drives it the way he can, which he, like Rory, loves these tree line golf courses because they can easily see which way they need to shape the shot. And not to mention this course, a lot of the dog legs you would prefer to hit a draw, which Bryson hits better than he does a fade. I just think that Bryson at 14-1 is a value. Now, am I concerned about like what's happened on Sunday, like at Augusta and some other places in majors? Absolutely, I am. But I also just think if you look at it, he keeps getting in these situations. And for whatever reason,
That's the
he's the
thing.
only guy from the Live Tour that has really balled out. And I'm talking about balled out in the major since he's left. Obviously, he's won one. I do think this is a course, and I think that the soft fairways are going to really help Bryson. Like, again, him and Rory, if they're getting that driver going straight, they're going to hit a ton of fairways and have shots that other guys are going to just be jealous of. Because, I mean, they'll be 80, 90 yards in front of them after they cut the corner.
Yeah, I mean, everything's a fair point there. Some of those stats you presented are absolutely bonkers, as you prefaced already. Again, he keeps finding himself in these situations. Every major, it seems like, since he's left for Live, he has been in contention on Sunday or within a shout on Sunday, right? He's had many leads. We've talked about some of those that he's blown, but he's always in contention. And we talk this all the time. This is a common discussion in the Discord is like, who since going to Live has become a better golfer, right? And, there's a very few, maybe three, four, possibly, and Bryson's number one on that list. He's also the biggest golf nerd, probably maybe outside of Scotty Scheffler in a different sense. Scotty Scheffler's just eat, sleep, breathe golf. Bryson's always trying to use mathematical equations and all of his engineering background to better himself. And I mean, it's showing dividends with what he's able to do with his, 3D printed irons that he uses and all of
He's
the,
also the only guy that truly lived by what was the Live standard of growing the game. He
yeah, oh yeah,
actually
oh yeah.
does want to grow the game. And he has proved that by the YouTube channel and everything else. And a lot of people have problems with Bryson. I really don't. But I don't understand where people, like he's the one person that to me, because that was the answer almost all of them gave him, not the money. Some of them did say the money, but I mean, he truly does, you can tell, want to grow the game, and he's lived up to that from everything you've seen, even to just this last week. I saw he went and met with a kid who has terminal cancer and hit balls on the range with him for like 2 hours. So I do admire that because I do think he thought that was going to be part of it. And it'll be interesting if it's true. His contract and so the other guys' contracts with Live are coming up. And then I'm fascinated to see what they end up doing.
That's a good point as well, because if you ask anyone that's like 20 years or under who their favorite golfer in the world is, it's going to be Bryson DeChambeau, right? And he's done so much to bring the youth into the game because the YouTube side of things and all of that, where, golf typically is an older person sport, right? I mean, rightfully so. I mean, I wasn't into golf and, to the level I am until I was like 25 years old. I wasn't in when I was playing golf, but I wasn't following the PGA Tour and knew all these guys, right? So he definitely is growing the game, and he's a good guy for the sport. Before he left, he was, one of the most hated guys on the PGA Tour, and somehow has gone to live in his more likable sense.
It's
But
crazy.
yeah, I mean, everything
Most
about,
Bryson thing ever, right?
yeah, really, really, to go to live and become more popular. All right, let's keep moving, guys. My next play here is this is not really a model play. This is more so a form play and things like that. It's Victor Hovland at 55 to 1. When you think of Victor Hovland recently, it's been the struggles, it's been the changing the swing coaches and the caddies and all of that. And, you know, but what he's done in the last, 2 years at the PGA Championship, he placed third last year of Valhalla during his struggles. He placed second in the Oak Hill in 2023 and was one, hit lip of a bunker away from winning the PGA Championship there that Brooks Koepka ended up winning. He, has played Quail Hollow decent as of late, 24th in 2024, 43rd in 2023, and third in 2021. Most recently, 54th at Truist, throw out the window, as Jake likes to do. Prior to that, 13th of the RPC Heritage, 21st of the Masters, and won the Valspar Championship. Ninth on tour and approximately the hole for 175 plus. He talked about the importance of that stat this week. 11th on approach, 20th in par fives, 50th in green and regulations, 59th tee to green, 68th in stroke and putting in Bermuda. What really is always the struggle for Victor Hovland and will continue to be the struggle for Victor Hovland is the around the green play. So we'll see how he manages that this week with these tough to hold greens. We'll see if he, the constant changing of swing coaches. I think was it right before his victory that he had a new swing coach?
It
Either
was
way,
close.
it
Yeah,
was
it
somewhere
was
right
just a
around
few
there,
months. Yeah.
right around there. We'll see if that, because there were signs of that, that the around the green play is what took him out of the 2023 PGA Championship. And then he went on to chase down Scotty Scheffler in the back nine to win the PGA Tour Championship later that season. We're not that far removed from Victor Hovland, being in discussion as the best golfer in the world when he took down Scotty in 2023 to end that season. I know it's not been great before or since, but he has that recent victory, has great showings at the PGA Championship, great showings at this golf course, and the approach numbers are always going to be insane for Victor Hovland. The putting on Bermuda is halfway decent as well, 68th there on tour. It's going to come down to the around the green work. We'll see which version of him we get. Hopefully, it's the one we're hoping for, because again, I love to see Victor Hovland in play. And I talked to Jake about this. I love when I can make a betting card with multiple different flags on there. It appeals to my eye, right? And he would be the first uh, golfer from Norway to win a major, which I'm sure he always has in the back of his mind doing that for his country. And I think he was the first Norwegian born male, at least, to win on the PGA Tour. So to get that next, stake in the ground for him would be massive.
Yeah, to be a little contrarian here, the only reason Hovland was on my short list, right? I think the rain is what pushed me off of Hovland just because, like you said, greens are going to be hard to hold. He's going to have to chip to be successful here. Add in the rain element to the rough, like we discussed when we first were talking about the course breakdown. I think Hovland is really, really going to struggle. But that being said, he has the correct ball flight here to stick some of these greens with a high ball flight. So um, if he can hold enough greens and sink enough putts, for sure he's going to be in contention. I just worry about the around the green play a bit.
And that's baked in the number, right? We're talking 55 to 1
Yeah.
here for Victor Hovland, who won not that long ago. Great PGA Championship golfer, a premier golfer on the PGA Tour. That number, 55 to 1, is definitely baked in with around the green struggles.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Jake, who we have next here?
Yeah, you didn't like this play when I put it in our Discord. I'm going with Joaquin Niemann at 35
Nah.
to 1. My only concern with Neiman is his ball flight because everything else kind of checks the box for me here. Plus distance off the tee. He's been playing you mentioned it when we were talking about Bryson. There's been maybe 3 or 4 players on Live that have stepped their game up since joining, and Neiman is definitely number 2 on that list. The approach play's been
I'd argue
there.
he's number one from, where he was to where he's now.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
He,
Yeah, he's really stepped his game up. He has 3 wins on Live. He has 4 wins in his last 10 starts, if you include the win on the Asia Tour. The problem with him, right? Like I said, the ball flight is a little scary. He likes to flight it low. To hold the greens, you're really gonna have to put the ball up high. Also, his major performances, not anything to brag about, but I think that Quail is a really good place for Neiman to find success. Um, it's been a while since he's played this course, but in 2019 he had a 38th finish, and 2021 he had a T18. He's a much better golfer than when he was in those years, but playing some awesome golf on Live. The approach and distance off the tee is what really hooked me on him. This was more of a fair value play. There wasn't a ton of value baked into the number, but I couldn't get away. I think that this is the first major he's really going to show up and make a splash in, and I think he has the potential to win this week.
Yeah, my only debate with Neiman is the inability to show up at majors. Like he's gone over to live, he's been dominant over there, and I think it's just because he cares more about the winning aspect than a lot of the guys over there. We talked about it already. A lot of those guys are there just for the money aspect of things. Then we have the likes of Neiman, even like John Rahm, who has been very good on live and is contention each and every week. But it comes down to it. Joakim Neiman just cares more about the winning aspect of it, and so be it, right? But he comes over to play these majors and it just he's constantly like 50th, 40th, 30th, somewhere around there. And that's really it. But in the grand scheme of things, he is one of those 3 golfers, 4 golfers from Live who has become a much better golfer in the sense. And I think it's a matter of time before he starts showing up at these majors. It definitely is something, it's got to be mental because he's competing with the John Rahms, the Bryson DeChambos, the Brooks Koepkas, and beating those guys on Live each and every week. So we know he can do it with those guys. There's got to be a mental block or barrier there for him at these majors that he has to overcome. And maybe Quill Hollow, like you said, it fits his game rather well and his ball flight rather well. That this could be the one that he finally gets across that threshold. All right, Keith, where are we headed to next?
Um, I know a lot of people are going to be scared off because he's coming off of a win. I'm not. Sepp Straka, 60 to
Yeah,
1, pretty juicy. Since 2006, players at the PGA Championship that have gone on to won 3 victories, 10 top 5 finishes. Phil Mickelson is the only one since 2006 to finish outside the top 30. So it is very important when looking at people that you have winning this event that they've played well in their previous start. And this dude's game to me is just tailor made for this golf course.
yeah.
You need to drive it straight. He's 14th in driving accuracy, one of the best iron players in the world. Second, Scroats gained approach. And again, the big thing, that 175 plus yard number, he's 14th on approaches from 175 to 200, 15th on approaches of 200 plus yards. And then to me, the big thing is his putting and scrambling has gotten a lot better this year. And we saw it again on display
Yep.
last week. And I know that wasn't a major and it was a signature event, but I mean, this guy's now won at 2, pretty big fields, big events this year. And his confidence is just growing. I've known Straka a long time being a UGA fan. And I know that all those guys have said for a long time, the biggest person holding Sepp Straka back was Sepp Straka because he just didn't believe he belonged or he could do it. And Keith Mitchell spoke about this, I believe it was last year after he won an event, that he's starting to believe in himself. And you could really see that on Sunday. I
Oh
thought that
yeah.
was a very impressive win. JT, coming down with you. Shane Lowry is now one of the best, players in the world just week to week with a short game and everything. And he was able to hold both of those guys off. And I think 60 to 1, it's a little disrespectful to the only guy in this field not named Rory McIlroy with 2 wins this year on the PGA Tour. And again, I think this venue sets up very well for him. If he putts well, I'd be shocked if he's not in contention on Sunday. And I know he was very disappointed with the way he played at Augusta. And I think that's possibly why his odds are so high and why people are not talking about him. But both with the betting odds and his DK price, which is 8,000, like sign me up. He's
Yeah.
in a ton of my cash lineups.
Yeah, definitely. And starting that back nine where he had the lead and then he went back to back bogey, lost the lead. Shane Lowry kind of could have put that to bed and if he would have made a few putts. But
Right.
Straka, the mental aspect of the game he talked about there, he didn't feel like he believed he fit or belonged in years past. He bounced back from those two bogeys, played some great golf through the final seven holes and held off Shane Lowry. You mentioned it, who is having very quietly one of the better seasons on tour, again, outside of victory. And then Justin Thomas, who we've all three have raved about in this podcast already and winning this golf event. Again, the number I looked at, and to me, it scared me off because he won last week. I know that shouldn't be a reason why I'm not betting the guy. I don't know how much it's going to take out of him to win that event last week, and then instantly come back and try to do it again. It's a really hard thing to do. We don't see multiple winners on the PGA Tour often, unless you're a Rory McIlroy, a Scotty Scheffler, right? But doing so, the American Express now and the Tourist Championship, two decent golf courses too, dating back to the American Express as well. Again, he's definitely my DFS lineups at 8,000. That is a fantastic price and rather disrespectful, as Keith has mentioned already. But yeah, great play nonetheless. He matches everything you need at this golf course. All right, so I'm going to take my stab at a live guy here, and I'm going with a guy I've mentioned already, and that's Patrick Reed at 90 to 1. You know, again, I need Patrick Reed at Bethpage Black, and to do so, a win this week would almost, force Keegan Bradley's hand in doing so. Either way, you know, last five PGA championships, a 53rd last year, let's take that out of the picture. 18th in 2023, 34th in 2022, 17th in 2021, 13th in 2020. Also placed sixth at the Truist Championship at Quail Hollow in his last outing there. I think it was 2020 or 2021. He did that. 28th in 2019, eighth in 2018. Most recently, fourth on Live Korea, 17th Live Mexico City, and seventh in Live Miami. Also finished third at the Masters this season, not too long ago. Again, don't really have the stats to compare him to the PGA Tour because Live stats are honestly awful. And if you ever looked at their website and looked at stats, like sometimes their numbers are like out of order. It'll be like 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. This is a very simple. You have 45 golfers, whatever to list here. I don't know why you're messing that up. Either way, Patrick Reed is the type of guy to win majors, and he's won the Masters before. He's competed a long time on the PGA Tour. We talk about it all the time. The villains of the game are definitely important for viewership and keeping people interested. He's the definition of a villain. He is not a great guy, but he's a guy that I believe can win this golf event at a 90 to 1 price. And again, it's probably the live value holding him back there because if he was a PGA Tour guy, he'd be 60s, 50s every day of the week. Great value at 90 to 1. So that's where I'm next at.
I
Yeah,
love
you
it. He's on my board too. I have him actually to win top five, top 10, and top 20 because the odds are ridiculous. He is one of the best hard golf
Mm-hmm.
course players in the world. He's one of
Excuse
the
me.
best scramblers in the world. He's one of the best Bermuda green putters in the world. And I think the harder this venue plays, the better it is for Patrick Reed. Because again, I think that if it was the firm fast conditions, I don't think he would have a real chance to beat like the Rory McIlroys, the Bryson DeChambeau, Scotty Schefflers of the world. I think he can beat them at this kind of course. And then don't forget, the Ryder Cup is so important to this guy. And he only is getting points for the Ryder Cup from the majors. And the only way really to secure a Ryder Cup spot is to either just do outstanding at the majors, which he got off to a good start at the Masters. But the easiest way to pretty much guarantee a spot is to win one of the majors. And I promise you, Patrick Reed would probably say if he won the PGA, the Open, or whatever this year, that the biggest part of that is him being a part of the Ryder Cup team. Because we saw a couple of years, or what was it, 2 years ago, Wyndham Clark, that you win a major, you're pretty much on the
Yeah,
American
Brian
Ryder
Harman
Cup team.
too.
The way, the way the point system is exactly. So I think that's a big factor too. I love reading again his top 20. You still are getting, I believe it's plus 340 or 320
Yeah,
for him to top
insane value.
20. That is one of my favorite bets. It's one of my biggest unit bets this week. I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's funny. People are fading him now because of the weather when I actually think it's the exact opposite why I like him because he will be able to scramble where a lot of these guys, when they miss greens and stuff, they're going to have a horrible time getting up and down.
Yeah, he's, known for being an elite scrambler, and he also believes he is better than everyone else on the golf course, which is a huge thing to have, like that blind confidence in yourself to go out at these type of golf courses and these events and win. You definitely need something like that. You can't ever doubt yourself, and Patrick Reed is never going to doubt himself. So I love that mentality of things. But yeah, I need to see this guy on Team USA at the Ryder Cup because he is
Completely
the
agree.
difference maker, the X factor that this team definitely needs and was definitely lacking in Rome 2 years ago.
Hmm.
All right, Jake, who we rolling out next?
Yeah, this play is definitely a little scary. I'm going with Patrick Cantlay at 45 to 1. The master of the backdoor top five, the deception of this guy feels like he's never really in the hunt come Sunday, and then you look at his results and it's a littering of top 15 finishes, and you're like, wait, I haven't seen this guy all week. The ball striking, honestly, the ball striking combined with the 45 to 1 is what put me on him because his irons have been absolutely nuclear. Like it's been incredible. So I just need this guy to make some freaking putts. He's a great driver of the golf ball. He's great with his irons. He just needs to make a couple more putts. He had a backdoor top five last week at the Truist. I think he was like 20, 25 to 1 last week. His quail history, not anything too crazy. A T21 in 2023 and a T29 last year. But I just Oh, it's scary because I had a whole conversation in our Discord, right? I was like, Patrick Cantlay's a loser. Don't bet him. He's not going to win anything. And then I saw the 45 next to his name, and I was like, there's enough meat on that bone to take a chance at 45 to 1 on a guy who's hitting the ball this well that I had to do it. And I fully expect to get roasted when he backdoors the top 10 and just doesn't sniff anything at the end.
He
Yeah,
is, though, a good putting week away from
yeah,
winning an event. And it's the same thing I was saying about JT. Like, I know his numbers overall have been good, but he had not put together four good putting rounds all season. The first week he did at the RBC Heritage, he won because, again, his ball striking numbers have just been unbelievable. And Cantley at least has the history of he is somebody that traditionally is a good putter and is just, for whatever reason, right now really struggling. And I thought the same thing with, Colin Morikawa about, I almost bet him because he's like 22 to 1. It's not quite high enough. Our rule is 25 to 1, but he is right around that range where it's like, even though lately he has not been able to close a deal, Russell Henley came back on him. I mean, when you start to get in that kind of value, he is one of those few dudes that just, if he's on, he can play with any guy in the world. I think Cantley, though, again, I, like, I couldn't bet him because I've had horrible luck with Cantley anyway in my career. Nobody wants me betting Cantley because that means if you're betting him, you're just throwing money away. But I agree with you that he's literally, if he keeps hitting the ball this way, just four good putting days away from getting a PGA Tour victory this year.
yeah. There's
Yeah, and
also the
it's
fact that he, is on the board of the PGA Tour, and they always say if you're ready to retire, join the board because you're not going to win ever again. And well, I think Rory's on the board, so I think that goes out the window now. But yeah, Cantlay, it's a tough one, right? Because the numbers always tell you it's Patrick Cantlay's week, but it's never Patrick Cantlay's week. But again, the iron play has always been there. It'll always be there for Patrick Cantlay. And again, if he gets enough putts to fall, he will be in contention. And again, as Jake said, you look at his placement chart from this season, and it's top 10, top 15, top five, left and right, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. But he's right there. He's right there.
Yeah, and it's not like it's Tommy Fleetwood who's been on the tour for years and hasn't gotten over the finish line. This is an eight-time PGA Tour winner.
Yeah,
It's just been a little bit of time, so I'm hoping he could just string it together this week.
he's still a top 10 player in the world.
Yeah,
Like he's been a top 10 player in the world for 6, 7 years now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Keith, who's your next play?
Um, I've got two long shots because, again, I had Reed on my betting card and
Okay.
JT. But Justin Rose, 110 to
Oh
1.
God,
This is
yes.
just, I mean, the odds are outrageous. We saw what he did at the Masters. This is becoming a theme for him. I never thought in his mid 40s he would start all of a sudden just being unreal at the majors, but that's basically his last eight major starts. And he's so good at this event. Five straight top 20s, and really, again, excels on long, difficult courses. So you're getting him 110 to 1. Why not? But the play I really am excited about, and I think he like we get those surprise PGA winners, right? Like the first time winners. It's been pretty frequently. I think it's 6 out of the last 12. It's like 23 of the last 39 PGA championships. You had a first time major winner, Dean Burmster from the LIV Tour, 120 to 1. He finished 12th last year on another really long golf course. I mean, he loves hitting driver and he hits it a mile. He's done very well on driver heavy courses. He's fifth. I think he's, no, excuse me, he's 10th in driver distance. But again, that number of 175 plus yards, he's fifth on approaches from 175 plus yards. And his putting numbers on live, which that's hard to, really find value for is a smaller field and everything. I get that, but it is encouraging that he's top 10 in putting average. And if you look at his major championships last year, where again, he had two top 20s, he finished 18th at the Open, and again, 12th at this PGA Championship. He gained strokes off the tee in 3 of 3 events, on strokes tee to green in 3 of 3 events, and on strokes around the green in 2 of 3 events. So I think he has the game. Like he's another one of those guys that he can kind of overpower this golf course. He's got carry distance, and again, he excels with those irons. Like with a lot of these guys, he's got to scramble, which I don't know if he can do that if he ends up not having a great week with his irons. But it is encouraging to be fifth in this, field, which is the deepest field all year in golf from approaches 175 yards or further, and over half of your shots come from that distance. I think that that's a good sign for him. And he's another guy that I have him to win top 5 and top 10 because the odds are pretty juicy.
Yeah, a few notes about those guys. Going back to Justin Rose, his top five or last five PGA championships: sixth last year, ninth in 2023, 13th in 2022, eighth in 2021, and ninth in 2020. Like it doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't add up, but it is what it is. I mean, you look at Bryson DeChambeau, 2, 4, 38, and 4 across his last four or last five, excuse me. Up there with the Colin Morikawas, the Scotty Schefflers. He's beating these guys in average finishing placement the last 5 years on the PGA Championship. And then Dean Burmester, you look back at fellow countryman Luis Oosthuizen, who seemed to be a top 5 merchant at every major he ever teed it up at. It could be his time because the game is kind of rather similar across all aspects of it. So two great plays there and a lot of value there. All right, so I guess we're entering long shot territory. I'll list off my first of two, and that being one of my favorite plays this week in Maverick McNeely, a top 10 golfer in the world right now, at least to the OWGR, and that's to, the live guys falling out of there. But either way, we talk about what you need this golf course, and you talked about the putting. He's currently 21st on tour in strokes gained putting Bermuda. Crushes it there. He's 26 in green regulations. He's 30th in approach. He's also plus distance off the tee. He 34th in par fives, 57th tee to green, 87th bogey avoidance, 91st in proximate hole from 175 plus. Around the green is where he really, struggles, but everything else matches up. He, again, what does he do with the best of them is he has that rare combination of elite distance off the tee with a very strong putter. Like you don't see that a lot. It's not a typical makeup of a golfer on the PGA Tour, but he has that. And it's, if the irons are going to show up or not, if he has a spike week with the irons. He won during the fall, waiting for that kind of like premier win on the PGA Tour, which I think he has in his bag. You talked about it, first time wins the PGA Championship. This could be Maverick McNeely's week, 130 to 1. Recent form, 60th last week of the Truist, throw that out. Third at the RPC Heritage, 32nd at the Masters, third at the Valero, 32nd in Texas, or in Houston, excuse me. Second at the Genesis, ninth at the Phoenix, eighth at the Century, 23rd last season of Valhalla. Really excited about Maverick McNeely this week at 130 to 1.
Yeah, I think it's a good call. I mean, he kind of fits the mold, right? The plus distance, but also being just a complete driver of the golf ball. The irons have been really nice to him. He's gained in 5 of his last 5 starts, including at the Masters where he finished T32. That Masters finish was sandwiched between 2 top 5 finishes. So coming in with some decent form and the iron play is there. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a good week.
Let's do it. I need another big one.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
in the interest of time here, I've got a couple more bets, but I'm just going to go through them on the quicker side. I got Corey Connors at 82 to 1. I think he's just been playing too good of golf to ignore at that number. Doesn't really fit the distance mold, but again, very accurate driver of the golf ball, elite on approach, and has a very decent short game. I think he has like 5 or 6 top 10 finishes in his last 8 starts or something crazy, including at the Masters,
Mhm.
where he was in contention for a bit. So, just to add to that, he had a T13 at the Wells Fargo last year and a T8 the year before that. So he has some course history here. Um, Going right into my next play, I got Keith Mitchell at 130 to 1. Kashmir Keith, first round leader Keith, whatever you want to call him this year. He has been dominating the first round leaders, but playing some awesome golf, has the plus distance off the tee. It feels like the win is coming. He just needs to get those weekend rounds under his belt, and just not have an even par day. Or, well, here, even par day would be great,
Oh yeah.
but just don't blow up on the weekends. And Keith Mitchell will be in contention. 5 top 20 finishes in his last 5 starts. Then my last play here, complete free play. $25 free play on this guy. It's Eugenia Chikara. Nate, we've covered him on the DP World Tour a bunch. He's my favorite DFS play this week. He is a superstar. He is incredible. He was on the Live Tour, jumped over to the Asia Tour where he had a lot of success, found his way onto the DP World Tour where in 4 starts, a T20, a win, a T4, and then a T11. This guy's the real deal. He has the game to play really well here, plus distance off the tee, and just a very solid all-around player. 400 to 1. I had, I did the full ladder like he did, the T40, T20, T10, T5, and a win. So if Chikara wins, I might just retire, but we'll see. I just think that he's really well suited to play well here.
Yeah, Shakara, it, if it allows, will be the first golfer to have been on live to regain or gain a PGA Tour card. Never had a PGA card to begin with, because he was kicked off live. I don't know what the exact reason was. It was a poor player, if the contract was up. Found his way on the DP World Tour and is absolutely crushing it there. He's in the top 5 or 10 right now to, advance from the DP World Tour to receive a PGA Tour card at the end of the season. Absolutely love that play. And I have one final play here, guys. If we're going super long shots, I have one for you. Jacob Bridgman, 300 to 1, fresh off a fourth place finish last week at the Truist Championship. Prior to that, 10th at the Zurich, third at the Valspar, 15th API, and second at the Cognizant Classic. He's fourth on tour. Fourth on tour in stroke team putting Bermuda, 34th in par 5, 36th total driving. That includes 75% driving distance, 25% accuracy in my model this week. 40th in proximity to the hole from 175 plus, 47th in scrambling, 61st around the green. Everything checks the box. 87th tee to green, 98th approach. Only downfall, he's making his PGA Tour and Quail Hollow debut both this week. So we'll see if that comes into play. But he checks every box and then some for me. 301. Take a little stab there at a very long shot at a guy I've played a few times this season. It gave me a few scares at some long numbers so far this season. So kind of becoming one of my guys this season.
Yeah, and I think he almost had the most feet of putt made last week, and he was just short. It was like over 500 feet of putts made. And like Keith said in the beginning, putting could be super important. This is a place you could putt the lights out and win. So I like the shout on Bridgman.
Yeah, he gained over I think it was 9.5 strokes total over 4 rounds of the Truist last week. Absolutely insane numbers.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys, that's it for the PGA Championship. It's going to be a good one. We've talked about it thoroughly throughout this podcast. We got another podcast here with Keith coming up right after this, so be sure to check out his stuff. Keith, where can people find you on social media and where can they find your podcast?
You can find me at Keith Fleming, KEITHFLEMMING on Twitter/X. Add DFS to the end of Keith Fleming for Blue Sky and TikTok. And then you can find my golf show on Fantasy Six Packs YouTube channel, and then all of my golf work, which now is 4 different articles per week on fantasysixpack.net. And I always appreciate you guys having me on.
Heck yeah. Jake, where can people find you on social media?
Yep, you can find me at the Jake Freeman on Twitter. My outright card is already posted, but I have not posted the Chikara add-on of the outright with a free play. So uh, be tuned for that. Also, be sure to join our Discord, completely free to join. Great community we have built there for golf. So if you're looking for any extra exclusive or additional content, be sure to join that. Message Nate or myself on Twitter, and we will be sure to get you in there.
And you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKFNate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Be sure to visit WeKnowFantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content. Until next time, guys, we'll see you.